Hello, today I am in the city of Leeds in West Yorkshire. It's Elland Road Football Stadium, which is the home of Leeds United FC. Now, Leeds are arguably the largest football club in Yorkshire, but back in the early 1960s it was very different. Leeds as a city wasn't even a football city, it was rugby that was the main sport. And at the time, Leeds United were getting attendances as little as 5,000 to 6,000 per match, whereas the rugby club up the road in Headingley were getting attendances of quadruple that. So at the front of the Don Revie statue, Don Revie took over the Leeds United manager's job in the early 1960s, and for 13 years after saving them from relegation to the third division, Leeds United won promotion to the top flight, and under Revie's stewardship they would go on to have major success, winning the league twice, finishing runners-up, becoming champions of England twice, and finishing runners-up on multiple occasions, as well as winning some domestic cups. Now, in the late 60s and early 70s, there were a number of clubs that did win promotion from the second division to the top flight, like Liverpool, Ipswich, I think, Nottingham Forest, Derby County. But where Leeds was unique was that it wasn't even located in a football supporting city. So Don Revie made some unique changes to the club. He changed their kit from blue and gold to white to emulate Real Madrid, who had won the European Cup multiple times in a row, and were arguably the successful team in the world. Also, he hired a witch doctor to come to Elland Road and lift the curse that he believed was on the football stadium and the football club as well. He also wore the same blue suit to matches for good luck. So Leeds, under Revie's leadership, were known for having a terrible disciplinary record, and they earned the nickname of Dirty Leeds. So in 1974, Revie is offered the England job. He takes it, and Brian Clough, who was Don Revie's nemesis, takes over the Leeds job for 44 days. Rather like Liz Truss in a way. So Leeds make a terrible start to the 74-75 season. Brian Clough gets sacked, and Leeds remained in the first division for a few years after that, without really challenging for major honours. In 1991-1992, 2 years after winning promotion back to the top flight, Leeds, under Howard Wilkinson's managerialship, won the first division in the year before the inaugural Premiership season. So they remained and never stay in the top flight but remaining mid-table, challenging for the odd cup. And in 1998, David O'Reilly took over the job, and he led the managerial job, and he led Leeds to the semi-final of the UEFA Cup in 1999-2000. And in 2000 to 2001, Leeds reached the semi-final of the Champions League. And I forgot to say earlier that in 1975, Leeds did reach the final of the European Cup. And I believe Revie had thought about rejecting the England job and staying at Leeds to have a go at winning the European Cup in 75. So back to 2001, Leeds gets the semi-final of the Champions League, and they lose 3-0 on aggregate to Valencia, and Leeds were seen as the upcoming young team that were going to be at the top end of the Premier League for years to come, be challenging for all the major honours. But they missed out on the Champions League, and the chairman, Peter Ridgdale, threw a lot of money which the club did not have to attempt to reach the Champions League again in 2002, and ironically on New Year's Day in 2002 Leeds were top of the Premier League, and it was seen as a certainty that they would finish in the top four and qualify for the Champions League. But then David O'Reilly released the book Leeds United on Trial, giving his version of the trial of Jonathan Woodgate and Lee Bowyer, and it is thought that he lost the dressing room and they missed out on the Champions League. And unfortunately for the football club, they gambled, the chairman and the board had gambled on Leeds becoming ever stays in the Champions League, so they spun into a downward spiral, and in 2004 were relegated from the Premiership. And they did fall down for 3 seasons as far as the 3rd tier between 2007 and 2010. So they won promotion back to the Championship, but in 2020, COVID year, after a 16-year absence, Leeds did return to the top flight of English football under Marcelo Bielsa. And from a personal point of view, I will say about Leeds, they feel are properly globally, they're a club that are a global brand, because I can go all over the country and I seem to bump into Leeds fans. I think when they were successful in the 60s and 70s, most of Yorkshire at that time supported Leeds United. So and I guess as for Don Revie, that's his legacy, because when he took over Leeds, as I said earlier, was a rugby city, and by achieving the success he did with them, Leeds became not just the biggest club in Yorkshire, but a club with supporters all over the globe. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye. Before I press stop, one last look at the statue.